Ever wondered how a bunch of colonies turned into the most powerful nation on Earth? Let's dive into the complete whirlwind history of the United States of America in just 10 minutes. Our story starts long before 1776, with the first humans crossing the Bering Strait land bridge from Asia over 15,000 years ago. These Paleo-Indians spread across North and South America, creating incredibly diverse cultures. From the cliff-dwelling Anasazi in the southwest to the great city of Cahokia near modern-day St. Louis, Native American civilizations flourished for thousands of years. They built complex societies, developed agriculture, and established vast trade networks. Then, everything changed in 1492. Christopher Columbus, looking for a shortcut to Asia, accidentally bumped into the Americas. This kicked off the age of exploration and the Columbian Exchange. Europeans brought horses, guns, and diseases, while the Americas introduced potatoes, tomatoes, and corn to the rest of the world. Sadly, diseases like smallpox devastated native populations who had no immunity, altering the continent forever. Fast forward to the early 1600s. European powers, especially England, began setting up permanent colonies. In 1607, Jamestown was founded in Virginia, barely surviving thanks to tobacco. In 1620, the Pilgrims landed at Plymouth Rock in Massachusetts, seeking religious freedom. Over the next century and a half, 13 distinct British colonies emerged along the Atlantic coast. They were different in many ways, from the Puritan society in New England to the plantation-based economy in the South, which tragically relied on the labor of enslaved Africans brought over in the horrific Middle Passage. But these diverse colonies shared a growing sense of identity. They were tired of being controlled by a king and parliament an ocean away. Britain was taxing them to pay for its wars. Remember the Stamp Act and the Tea Act? Without giving them any say in the government. No taxation without representation became the rallying cry. Tensions boiled over. The Boston Tea Party, this shot heard round the world at Lexington and Concord. It was all leading to one thing. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. It was a bold, radical statement, declaring that all men are created equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The American Revolutionary War was on. It was a brutal David versus Goliath struggle. Against all odds, with crucial help from France, General George Washington's Continental Army defeated the mighty British Empire. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 officially recognized the United States as an independent nation. Now came the hard part, building a country. The first attempt, the Articles of Confederation, was a bit of a disaster. It created a weak central government that couldn't get much done. So, in 1787, the nation's leaders met in Philadelphia and drafted the U.S. Constitution. This brilliant document established a federal system with 3 branches of government: legislative, executive, and judicial, and a system of checks and balances to prevent any one part from becoming too powerful. George Washington was unanimously elected as the first president. The 19th century was a period of explosive growth. The Louisiana Purchase in 1803 doubled the size of the country overnight. Lewis and Clark's epic expedition opened up the West. The idea of manifest destiny took hold. The belief that America was destined to stretch from coast to coast. This led to westward expansion, the gold rush, and the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. But this expansion came at a terrible cost for Native Americans, who were forcibly removed from their ancestral lands through violent conflicts and broken treaties, a tragic chapter known as the Trail of Tears. As the nation grew, a deep and bitter divide was widening between the North and the South. The issue was slavery. The industrial North didn't rely on it, while the agricultural South's economy was built on it. Compromises were made, but they only delayed the inevitable. When Abraham Lincoln, who opposed the expansion of slavery, was elected president in 1860, Southern states began to secede or leave the Union. The Civil War began in 1861. It was the deadliest conflict in American history, pitting brother against brother. For 4 long years, the nation tore itself apart. Key moments like the Battle of Gettysburg and Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation, which freed slaves in the Confederate States, turned the tide. In 1865, the Union won. The war preserved the nation and ended slavery. But the country was left with deep scars and the enormous challenge of Reconstruction, bringing the South back into the Union and defining the rights of newly freed African Americans. The late 1800s, known as the Gilded Age, saw incredible industrialization. Tycoons like Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Vanderbilt built massive fortunes in steel, oil, and railroads. Immigrants poured in from Europe and Asia, seeking a better life and fueling the factories in booming cities like New York and Chicago. But it wasn't golden for everyone. Workers faced harsh conditions, and farmers struggled with debt. This led to the rise of labor unions and the Progressive Era, a time of social and political reform aimed at curbing corporate power and improving society. The 20th century threw America onto the world stage. The U.S. entered World War I in 1917, helping the Allies to victory. The Roaring Twenties followed, a decade of jazz, flappers, and economic prosperity. But the party came to a crashing halt with the stock market crash of 1929, plunging the country and the world into the Great Depression. Millions lost their jobs and homes. President Franklin D. Roosevelt's New Deal programs helped provide relief and reform, fundamentally changing the role of government in American life. Just as the country was recovering, World War II erupted. The surprise attack on Pearl Harbor in 1941 thrust the U.S. into the global conflict. The entire nation mobilized. Rosie the Riveter became a symbol of women joining the workforce. American industry became the arsenal of democracy, and U.S. troops fought in Europe and the Pacific. The war ended in 1945 after the atomic bombs were dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, ushering in the nuclear age. The post-war era saw America emerge as a global superpower, locked in a tense Cold War with the Soviet Union. This ideological struggle between capitalism and communism dominated foreign policy for decades, leading to the space race, the Cuban Missile Crisis, and costly wars in Korea and Vietnam. The Vietnam War, in particular, deeply divided the country and sparked widespread protests. Back home, the 1950s and 60s were a time of both suburban conformity and profound social change. The civil rights movement, led by towering figures like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., fought to end racial segregation and discrimination. Through nonviolent protests, marches, and legal battles, they achieved landmark legislation like the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, though the struggle for true equality continues to this day. The late 20th century brought the digital revolution. The invention of the personal computer and the internet transformed everything about how we live, work, and communicate. The Cold War ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, leaving the U.S. as the world's sole superpower. The 21st century began with the tragic September 11th attacks, which led to the War on Terror and long conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq. The nation has also grappled with economic recessions, debates over healthcare and immigration, and a growing political polarization. Yet, through it all, America continues to innovate, to change, and to strive to live up to its founding ideals. From a handful of colonists to a diverse nation of over 330 million people, the history of the United States is a complex, often contradictory, but always fascinating story of struggle, triumph, and the ongoing experiment of democracy. It's a history that's still being written every single day. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey through time interesting, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history. See you next time.